Now we'll see what a load is. So you can define this load as the combination of one or more forces acting on a body. So a load is defined as combination of one or more forces acting on a body. Or in a more trivial sense, you can say that a load is nothing but a physical stress on a mechanical system or component. So this physical stress is nothing but the result of this particular external force that you're applying on the body, right? Now, classification of load. We can classify load in different ways. So first type of classification is dead load, live or fluctuating load, inertia load, and centrifugal load. What is dead load? Dead load is nothing but a load which is dead. That means which is stationary, which has not got any disturbance. Simply a load is kept. That means an external force is being applied and it is left. Fine. Then we have live or fluctuating load. So continuously there is some changes in the magnitude of the load, just like someone is hammering something, right? Or some vibrations. So those type of loads are called live or fluctuating load. And then we have inertia load, which arises due to inertia. And then load which is arising due to centrifugal force is called your centrifugal load. So these four different types of load comes under one classification, which is classification 1. Another type of classification, we can classify load as tensile load. Just like suppose if you are pulling anything, so when the pulling nature comes into picture, so that load is called tensile load. Whenever you are compressing anything, so that load is called your compressive load. Then when you are twisting anything, when you are applying some torsion, so that will be called as your torsional or twisting load. When you are bending anything, so that is called your bending load. And when you are shearing anything, so that we call as shearing load. The third type of classification, which is rather very quite relevant from this strength of material point of view. So remember it and learn it by heart. I'm giving you here itself the introduction of this different types of loads that we are going to study in our shear force and bending moment diagram, such that you will have a very good clarity here itself. So first type of load is your point load, which is your concentrated load. So we represent it with an arrow like this. So forget about this, whatever the symbol that I have used here. So this is actually the beam. So we will discuss about the beam sometime later, but for the time being, focus on these arrows or the loads. Okay, so the point of focus is the load, not the beam. So here you simply focus on this load. Now you will be asking, sir, what is this point load? Practically, is it possible? See, practically you cannot say that a load is being acted at a point. It is actually a relative term. Practically, we call a point load whenever the magnitude of the load or the surface area of the load is very small as compared to the base on which it is kept. So suppose the base is very big or huge. In comparison to that, the surface of this particular load which is kept is negligible. So that is why comparatively we call this as to be a point load or concentrated load. So there is nothing called point load or concentrated load that is just like a needle point. There will be no load, of course. So this is a comparative term. Remember this. Okay. Then we have got something called distributed load. So under distributed load, we have first category, which is a uniformly distributed load. The symbol or the representation of this uniformly distributed load is this, just like some clouds, uniform clouds going on the surface, or you can show with the help of some rectangles, which is vertically downwards. Okay. Another type of classification of distributed load is your gradually varying load, which is also called gradually distributed load. Under this category, we have further classification, which is your triangularly distributed load and trapezoidally distributed load. So whenever you have something like this that is in the form of any triangle, so either it could be like this triangle or this triangle, doesn't matter. It is a triangle, so we'll call this as to be your triangularly distributed load. And then whenever you see any shape like this of a trapezoid, we'll call this as a trapezoidally distributed load. The last category we have is non-uniformly distributed load or your arbitrary load. So here the distribution is not uniform. It could be anything. It could be arbitrary. So generally, practically, most of the cases you will come across this, but our point of focus and the numerical solving area will lie under these. That is the classification 3. That is your first 3 categories: point load or concentrated load, distributed load, which is uniformly distributed, gradually varying or gradually distributed, and then triangularly and trapezoidally. We won't be focusing more on this. So if some question do comes, we will see later. But for the time being, for your exam and for your undergraduate course, our point of concentration will be under these: point load, distributed load. Okay. So I hope you got the idea. See you in the next lecture. Till then, bye.